our dear colleague from Illinois, Senator Duckworth, but we're going to start. Okay, quiet everybody. So good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I'm proud to be joined by Senators Stabenow and Casey and shortly by Senator Duckworth. Now, very thankfully, hundreds of thousands of federal workers and contractors are back on the job. It is a relief to them above all, but to all of America. These are working people. They work so hard, and to use them as hostages to get something that has nothing to do with them was so wrong, and I'm glad that President Trump backed off. Still, there are costs. Every worker who lost pay for a period of time is facing costs, and of course we saw the statistical cost by CBO, $11 billion, including $3 billion never recovered. The individual costs of the Trump shutdown are even harder and more moving than the overall big numbers. Many federal workers have missed doctor's payments. They've fallen behind on paying bills when they miss 2 paychecks. Many of them still don't know when they're going to get the pay. It ought to be done as soon as possible. And what about federal contractors, many of whom live paycheck to paycheck as well, or people who work for the contractors? And so far, they're not getting back pay, although we are working hard on legislation led by Senators Smith and Brown to make sure, and if we come to an agreement, that that is part of it. I also support Senator Schatz's efforts to ensure financial protections for federal workers so they won't be evicted or foreclosed, have their car or other property repossessed, fall behind on their student loan payments or bills, and be penalized for all that. So, it's good news that our federal employees are back to work. There's still impacts of the Trump shutdown. I hope this serves as a lesson to President Trump and all of my Republican colleagues. No more shutdown. President Trump touched a hot, hot stove, and hopefully he won't do it again. The conference committee we suggested as a way out of the Trump shutdown permanently begins tomorrow. The House and Senate should strive to find common ground and build from there. Democrats and Republicans agree on the need for stronger border security measures at our ports of entry to stop illegal drugs, as well as humanitarian assistance, and those are good places to start. We've come to big agreements before, for example, on budgets and Russian sanctions. What was the common theme? When the president stays out of the negotiations, we almost always succeed. When he mixes in, it's a formula for failure. So I'd ask President Trump, let Congress deal with it on its own. Senator Stabenow.
We came together as Democrats on the House and Senate in a unified way around one principle in the last several weeks, and that is that the wages of federal workers and contractors should not be held hostage, period, no matter the debate, political or policy-wise. And because we did that and focused on real people, 800,000 federal workers and the others impacted, we were successful at stopping this craziness. Now, it took 35 days, and we wish it had never happened, that the president would have supported what we actually passed last December. But this step is done. Now we've got to make sure they get paid as quickly as possible, that the contractors are made whole, that other areas where people have been hurt, they're able to recover and made whole as well. And frankly, I call on the president to stop this freeze on federal pay and give federal workers the cost of living increase that they are deserving of receiving as well. So we are very focused on making sure that people that work hard every day get the wages and the respect and the support that they need. Now we have an opportunity to focus on border security. And again, we are united in wanting smart border security. And I would say, as the largest, most active northern border in Michigan, that I want to see northern and southern border security that is smart and strategic and keeps us safe. And that's something that every single Democrat supports.
Senator Casey.
I want to thank Senator Schumer, Senator Stabenow, and Senator Duckworth. What you heard from Senator Schumer was an outline about our concerns about what has happened to federal workers in these last couple of weeks, what happened to federal contractors, really what happened to American families and our economy. I would hope that the President in the next couple of days and thereafter would focus on what can be done, not just with regard to the work of the conference committee, but what can be done, what should be done to help those same families. Instead of predicting the outcome of the conference committee, he should focus on the back pay for federal workers. I know it's law, but he should just say it over and over again how important that is. That's a value that he could enunciate and repeat. He should also talk about helping us with legislation on federal contractors and other ways to make people whole. Even those who get back pay, for example, may have their credit ratings adversely impacted. It would help enormously to have the President of the United States over and over again highlight these issues, as Senator Schumer did in the opening. I'll just read one excerpt of one letter from a veteran in Pennsylvania. This veteran happens to live in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, in southeastern Pennsylvania. He says, and I quote, he was both a veteran of the Gulf War as well as a Justice Department employee. He said in part, please tell your colleagues in the Senate to get us back to work. I will not get paid this weekend. The shutdown has been a great stress during the holiday, and my wife and I are currently trying to figure out how to support our 4 children among all of our other bills if this continues. While I believe our borders need to be secure, this agenda is not something that should keep 800,000 federal workers unpaid, 250,000 of which are veterans who put our lives at risk for your freedom. Well said. This is the person, or the emblematic person the President should be focused on. That individual who has given so much to his or her country, that should be his focus, not predicting the outcome of a conference committee, not trying to win the news cycle. Focus on the people. To never shut down the government again.
Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Senator Schumer, Senator Casey, Senator Stabenow. $11 billion lost, $3 billion of which our country will never see again. Thinking about the shutdown's real-life, day-to-day consequences in these terms is almost impossible. Billions is too big a number. It doesn't tell you the story, the heartbreak that too many people across this country felt these past 5 weeks, that federal contractors are still feeling as they get robbed of the back pay that they deserve. Billions doesn't tell you the effect of every paycheck, every dollar makes for some of these families. Too many families have had to line up for blocks to get canned food from food banks over the past month. Too many families have fallen behind on their mortgages and worried about paying the next medical bill. Look, that $3 billion could have gone to paying for kids' education or for veterans' health care. I know of families that lost their child's place in daycare because they couldn't come up with the payment during that time period. Veterans' health was affected. During this time period, we had the point-in-time count. The point-in-time count is when homelessness veteran activists go out and count every single homeless person on the streets in this country. How many more people were pushed into homelessness? How many were facing homelessness as a result of loss of back pay? But instead, the shutdown went absolutely nowhere. We wasted time because this president chose a shutdown that was as heartless as it was dangerous, weakening our national security as he held hostage the paychecks of the very people who keep us safe. Mr. President, from one parent to another, I beg you, don't force another family to ration their meals with yet a second shutdown. Don't force another mother to walk from shelter to shelter, desperate to find something, anything for her son's dinner. And bring back just a little bit of economic security to some of the families that have suffered because of the pointless shutdown. Give them that peace of mind. Stop threatening to shut down government again just to gain points with your base. We are better than that. And please, Give the contractors back pay before even one more child is forced to know what it feels like to go to bed hungry or wake up without heat in the dead of winter. Thank you.
Well done. I thank my colleagues. Casey.
Have you asked Stacey Abrams to deliver the Democratic response, and has she accepted the State of the Union?
Well, Speaker Pelosi and I are going to issue an official statement shortly, but yes, 3 weeks ago I called Stacey Abrams and asked her to deliver the response to the State of the Union. I was very delighted when she agreed, and she is just a great spokesperson. She's an incredible leader. She has led the charge for voting rights, which is at the root of just about everything else, and she really has, if you look at her background, she knows what working people, middle-class people go through. So, yes, I'm very excited that she's agreed to be the respondent to the President in the State of the Union.
Sure. We asked Senator McConnell here a few moments ago what the scope he thought should be for the conference committee. We floated debt ceiling, immigration reform, DACA. Are you open to all of those parameters?
Well, look, I'm not going to get into the negotiations that are private. I hope we can come to an agreement. As Tammy Duckworth so eloquently said, I hope the President does not try to use working people as hostages. If this man cares so much about working people, why did he cause them so much hardship for nothing? And I hope we can come to an agreement.
There's been a lot of skepticism between rank-and-file lawmakers and aides about the prospects for this conference committee. How optimistic are you that something could actually get done?
I'm very hopeful. I think that a good number of our Republican colleagues don't want to shut down the government, you know, we'll have to see if they're willing to break from the President or if the President moves off his hard and fast position. But we Democrats want to negotiate in good faith and come to an agreement so that the shutdown ends, and then we'd look at other legislation so that we wouldn't have future shutdowns. Way in the back. Well, that'll be, you know, the debt ceiling, no more hostages to say, you know, open up the government or I'll do this, or this. And so, no, I think that's not a good idea. We ought to be negotiating to get an agreement, not add added elements into it. Yes. And then you, and that's it. I have not commented on the presidential race, and I'm going to keep it that way.
Senator Schumer, thanks.
Who was that?
Yeah, it was me, thanks. The White House has tried repeatedly to peel Democrats in support of the wall. You've, for the most part, been able to hold your caucus together. I mean, how sustainable is that really going forward?
Our caucus is united and strong because we believe that there shouldn't be hostage-taking. We believe that there ought to be an agreement. We believe in border security. We believe in dealings with the ports of entry. But if anything, our unity is stronger today than it was last week when we got all but one vote. Thank you, everybody.